Hello everyone! If you're new to our channel, I'm Anicia, this is my partner Philippe, and our little one is Odin. In June 2023, we bought a farm in the Dordogne region of southern France. It's a 34-acre property, most of which hadn't been used in a decade. The place was abandoned, overgrown, and the buildings had been neglected for years. This video shares our journey so far, where we started and where we are today. We hope it inspires you to chase your own dreams, whatever they may be, and show that the journey can be just as meaningful as the end result, if not more. We decided to breathe new life into this old farm, transforming it into our home and reconnecting with nature. We're diving into growing our own food, making things from scratch, and picking up new skills along the way. Plus, we wanted to give Odin a life full of enriching experiences. We are joined in this adventure in the French countryside by our cat Lucy and our dog June. Our story starts in Belgium, where we began by renovating a row house, transforming it into a modern home with all the essentials. Although we spent 7 happy years there, me working as a teacher and Philippe running his own plumbing business, we started to feel constrained by the limited space of our yard and surroundings. Both of us love working in the garden and spending time outdoors, and we wanted more room to pursue those passions. However, with the house prices in Belgium being so high, we realized that affording a home with a bigger yard wasn't feasible. So we extended our search and turned our attention to France. Both of us speak French, and the country offered the opportunity to chase our dreams while still being close enough to family and friends. A connection we knew would be hard to leave behind. After 4 years of searching and visiting multiple properties, we finally found the one and decided to make it ours. Here's a look at the property. There's a farmhouse and 2 big barns adjacent to each other, forming an L shape. The brown spots you see scattered across the land are massive bramble hills, a clear sign of just how long nature has had the chance to reclaim and flourish here. Behind the farmhouse, there's an old bake oven and a small barn next to it. In the courtyard there's a well and another small stone structure that's completely overgrown. It was likely used to hold pigs or other farm animals. This place had been in the same family for at least 200 years, and after being neglected for so long, we're determined to renovate it all and bring it back to life. The first month was all about clearing and cleaning our immediate surroundings. Trimming overgrown grass, brambles, bushes, and trees to make the area around the old farmhouse and barn more open and manageable. We set up the basics like Starlink internet and an electric stove for cooking. We met and got to know our neighbors and familiarize ourselves with the area. While Philippe focused on the outdoor tasks, I started learning the basics of video editing while also taking care of our 7-month-old little Odin.
We focused on a few key projects, such as clearing around the stone structure in the courtyard and taking down a dilapidated makeshift shed built against it, which was full of mice and other rodents, to open up the space. Tackling the overgrown oak trees pushing against the old barn wall at the back was another big task. This part of the wall isn't in the best shape, and clearing it allowed us to see exactly what issues we'll need to deal with. As August arrived, we continued clearing various parts in and around the property by taking down overgrown and broken down fencing, turning it all into firewood. As you can see, the biggest structures on the property are two barns. An older one that is at least as old as the farmhouse, if not older, and a newer barn made from cinder block in the 70s. There is a platform connecting the two barns together, but with a snapped beam we feared it wouldn't take long for it to come tumbling down. So it had to go.
I'm getting rid of the hay so I can take down this platform because it has a broken beam in the back, and the only beam that's still good is the front one, and we won't be needing it anymore since we'll be putting the caravan in here once we have our furniture and the scrap wood, as you have seen.
We stored away the good beams and planks for later use, and like with the old fencing, the rest was turned into firewood. The smaller stone structure we had cleared the month before seemed like the ideal place for raising chickens. So we cleaned out its attic, removed all the hay, and sealed the openings with wood and chicken wire. There's a reason we named our channel Domaine Sauvage, French for wild estate. Large parts of the land had been left to nature, making small predators a concern who might not hesitate to snatch a chicken or two. With the little stone structure secured, we transformed it into a chicken coop and soon filled it with 2 new chickens, expanding our animal family beyond Lucy and June.
Hello.
Shortly after, our human family visited and helped us move in our furniture, allowing us to finally set up house. After living in the caravan for the past 8 months, we were eager to enjoy more space in the old farmhouse. The house is very old, but it's livable, so we have to say goodbye to our caravan. Here's a throwback to our days in the house on wheels. With Odin mastering his crawling skills, it wasn't a moment too soon that we transitioned into the farmhouse. We had already set up the kitchen and the bedroom, and we finally arranged the living room, creating plenty of space for Odin to explore.
Hey, come! Yeah! Come!
Our family also helped with cleaning out the newer barn attic, making it easier to neatly store our belongings. In the meantime, our chickens were settling in faster than we were, popping up regularly as if to check on our progress. September rolled in, bringing a few new challenges, starting with cleaning out the old barn. Dealing with an abandoned property means tackling dust, debris, and plenty of sorting, though we were lucky that there wasn't too much accumulated junk in the buildings. However, we did uncover a few surprises hidden among the overgrown grass and brambles, something you will see later. We emptied the barn, separating what could be salvaged from what couldn't, and gave the place a much-needed clean. But it wasn't just the old barn that needed attention. The beams in the newer barn, built in the 70s, had also suffered from neglect, with woodworms making themselves at home and threatening the structure's longevity. Since we planned to store most of our work gear here, it was crucial to ensure the barn was clean and secure. So Philippe got to work cleaning the beams, shaving off the affected areas, sanding them down, and giving them a thorough treatment to extend their life.
Gaat toch altijd
ja, ik kan nu beginnen met misschien een beetje opzij te leggen.
En als je naar de winkel gaat,
en dan 2 dagen later is het allemaal weer groen. Ja. Staan natuurlijk nog groen op.
One of many reasons we moved to the French countryside was to create a more self-sufficient and sustainable lifestyle while also embracing the technology at hand. Even though the house is connected to the grid, we wanted the option to go off-grid. So, with large parts of the yard cleared of tall grass and brambles, we had the perfect space to set up solar panels, a key step in generating our own electricity. As autumn settled in and the weather turned cooler, our thoughts turned to winter preparations. The old farmhouse has no central heating, so we knew we'd need to rely on a wood stove for warmth. But before we could even think about installing one, a more immediate issue grabbed our attention. One morning, while playing with Odin in the living room, I noticed some critters emerging from the floorboards. I showed Philippe, and that discovery quickly determined our next task.
Welcome in the basement. This is underneath the living room. Today is a day of a lot of rain, so there's not much I can do outside, so I'm gonna start cleaning the basement.
The path to warm feet in winter started from the ground up. With the basement done, our next step was installing the wood stove. We set up scaffolding to access the chimney and give it a thorough cleaning. Once the scaffolding was done, it was time to install the wood stove.
En daarachter moet hij sowieso. Want als 6 dus
The solar panels were set up in the garden, but they weren't fully operational yet. Now that the new barn had been treated against woodworm, it was the perfect spot to install all our electrics, including the connection to the solar panels. We chose a Victron system, believing it to be the best available. Once Philippe finished the prep work, his brother Jean visited to help us connect everything and make sure it was linked to our house so we could finally start using solar power. The joke was on us though, because there wouldn't be much sun to go around, but at least the setup was complete. With autumn really settling in, we were burning through wood faster than the previous month. To make sure we had enough for the entire winter, we needed to plan ahead. There was a fallen tree uphill behind the barn with well-seasoned wood that would be a perfect addition to our stock. We didn't know it then, but this would turn out to be one of the wettest fall, winter and spring seasons the Dordogne had seen in a long time. Relentless rain brought water-related issues to our farm, and part of the old roof, already in a fragile state, had to come down at some point. And one morning, it did.
a part of the wall of the old barn came crashing down. We have a problem with the roof. So this is what fell on the floor.
This forced us to rethink our priorities and find a way to secure the roof. But before we could tackle that, we needed to excavate the hill behind the barn to access the roof for a thorough renovation. The big question was, should we rent an excavator or buy one to get the job done? The days were getting chillier and wetter, so nothing was better than enjoying comfort food and the warmth of our wood stove after a hard day's work. There's something undeniably magical about a wood stove's heat. It radiates a gentle warmth that wraps around you like a soft woolen blanket. And it's more than just heat. It had become a central part of our daily routine, tending to the fire from morning until evening. As our only source of warmth, it truly became the heart of our home, making Odin's first birthday feel especially cozy.
Je bent 1 jaar.
Odin, hè?
Odin santé, ja.
Santé.
6 months in, the property went from looking like this to this, with much of the surrounding yard now cleared and manageable for maintenance. We had made quite some progress outside, but our attention shifted to the next big challenge, renovating the old barn. Although we had to delay excavating the hill behind it while deciding on the excavator issue, we didn't want to lose momentum. So we decided to take on tasks in preparation of these renovation works, starting with removing the old pointing from the barn wall. According to our limited knowledge about pointing, we felt like it hadn't been done with much finesse.
You can just peel it off with your hands, so it's the wrong product. And the way it has been applied is, I have no words for it. Let's put it that way. The closer you get to the ground, the more moisture. Here the stones are really wet, so that's the problem we're having. Water coming from uphill behind the barn and making its way through.
The rain made the barn's water issues impossible to ignore. It was so bad that water was literally flowing through the buildings. And since it was raining anyways, working inside wasn't so bad. So we decided it was time to tick off another task from our list for the barn renovation. The left side of the barn, once used for cows, had a water trough and feeding slots on the other side. However, the low ceiling made the space impractical for functional use, so that would have to go, including the thick concrete floor. Next up, the cow trough and the pointing of the inside walls.
Okay, whoever made this decided to make it as strong as a World War II bunker. No idea why, all the rest in here was pretty easy. This is the back wall of the old barn. Behind is the hill with all the water we're getting. And this is a new cement rendering. The stones are in the ground, they pick up moisture from the outside. If you put cement on it, they can't breathe. It's like putting a plastic bag or a condom over your head and wondering why you can't breathe. And then they had the idea to put another cement rendering on it, like putting a second condom over your head or plastic bag, and still wondering why you can't breathe. So yeah, it's good, it's gonna be gone. And then these stones can start drying, hopefully. Well, not immediately, I still have to dig away the hill at the back here to stop the water from pushing through.
You might be wondering by now, Philippe is always busy, but what am I up to all day? Well, when I'm not editing during Odin's naps, I'm taking care of him. Preparing healthy meals, helping Philippe when needed, and managing all the paperwork required to settle in France, to name a few things. I also handle some of the camera work, filming extra shots to make sure our videos tell a complete story. As much as you hear me complain about the weather, we also recognize its benefits. The rain exposed the real issues on the farm, forcing us to confront them head-on. It pushed us to find solutions. Solutions that would benefit us and our homestead for years to come. After much deliberation, we decided to invest in a second-hand 2-ton digger to assist with the excavation work. We opted for a smaller model so that we could also use it to dig out soil or debris inside the buildings, sparing ourselves countless backaches. So, what's our plan for the excavation work? Well, there are several issues we need to address. First, the old barn roof. One of the trusses snapped, causing the weight of the roof to push the ring beam and walls outward. Also, the land behind the barn slopes uphill and multiple small water sources are seeping through the buildings, creating an unhealthy, damp environment that's damaging the walls, beams, and overall structure. Given that the area we live in is known as the land of trees and water, it's crucial to be mindful of how water can affect buildings and houses. To tackle this, we'll begin by digging about 10 meters at the back of the barn, installing a French drain to divert excess water away. Later, we'll also dig out a swale higher up to redirect the main flow of water. With these two main diversions, the buildings will be better protected. As for the space that opens up once that 10-meter line is excavated, we plan to create a parking area there. This will prevent cars from driving between the farmhouse and the old barn, where the white gate currently stands, improving the overall layout and serving us for future plans. More on that later. The platform Philippe is taking out is also the ceiling of the space where the cows used to be. However, since it was too low and upon closer inspection, we noticed the planks were in a very poor state, given the damp conditions they must have been in for a long time. We managed to salvage a few planks that hadn't been affected by moisture or woodworm and stored them, but the rest were too far gone and were turned into firewood. In light of the excavation, we really wanted to save the beautiful oak trees that were in the way. So we dug them out one by one and relocated them higher up the hill. As we continued, the weather shifted from frosty to rainy, making the job more challenging as the area turned into a muddy cesspool. However, with the help of the digger and a bit of courage, we managed to save about 26 trees. A few days later, the weather turned frosty again, and with these extreme conditions, we were left hoping the trees would survive. We'd have to wait until spring to find out. Despite the rain, we were treated to some beautiful misty mornings that transformed the landscape into a dreamlike scene, casting everything in a delicate ethereal light that softened the edges. These mornings made the familiar landscape feel entirely different, turning corners of the yard into places of intrigue, where paths seemed to lead nowhere and every shadow hinted at something hidden just out of sight, making even the most ordinary spots feel mysterious. As I was filming these misty scenes, the serene atmosphere made me crave the warmth and comfort of a homemade apple pie. I couldn't wait to enjoy it later when Philippe finished working outside. A little side note though, I left the pies to cool and turned my back for just a minute, only to find that June had silently gobbled them all up. It was my fault for leaving them out, so I made the pies again from scratch because that craving wasn't going away, and Philippe had caught a whiff of them too. While I restarted on the pies, Philippe set out roughly how far he would have to dig. He tackled it scoop by scoop, meter by meter. Things were going well, and with each movement, Philippe got better at handling the digger. But as you can see, the soil was saturated from all the rain, and at one point, he got stuck. It didn't look like much in the original video, but it took him nearly 2 hours to get out of there.
You can see all the water pooling up against this berm from digging out. You can see all the water coming from the hill, collecting against it and then flowing that way and down in the fields. So once this dirt is gone, we're gonna make a trench here towards there, or a swale, whatever you want to call it. Put some plants against it that keep it all together. So any water in the future that comes down goes first that way, and any water that makes it through will go through the French drain, also away from the buildings.
It might seem like a big job for a small digger, but we have to work with what we have, and for now it was getting the job done. That is, until one of the pins holding the excavator bucket snapped, bringing the work to an immediate halt. This forced Philippe to switch from digger operator to mechanic, figuring out how to fix it.
I'm gonna try to get the bushings out. I'm gonna grind a slit so the tension is away, and then I'm gonna chisel them out. I bought this little grinding bit from Makita. Okay. Oh, there's zero play with those O-rings in it. It's just smooth. The sound is just, you just hear it's fitting perfectly.
After some research, including reading through manuals and learning from YouTube videos, he managed to get it fixed. With the pin back in place, all that was left was to reassemble the arm of the excavator so the big job with the little digger could continue. As the digging advanced, so did the relentless rain. In fact, this spring has been the wettest in France in 15 years. The video footage speaks for itself, with constant puddles and dark clouds overhead. At a certain point, it became too much, and we had to make the decision to halt the excavation until drier weather arrived. It was frustrating because it meant missing our deadline to fix the barn roof. But we couldn't change the weather, so we had to look ahead. Fortunately, there's always something to do at Domaine Sauvage. With much of the vegetation down during winter, it was the perfect time to continue expanding our yard and open up the view around us. So let me take you through the transformation and expansion of our surroundings.
There is the house, the old barn. Then I went down, and then here is another big bramble hill that's close to us. And in the summertime, we like to sit underneath this tree, so it is blocking our view.
Next up was this area over here. The cleaning of brambles and tall grass around the house was a good thing, because it allowed us to clean out a lot of waste and junk we found along the way.
This is most of the metal fencing that I had to cut up in little pieces. Then some netting, some rope. Then here the plastics, some pipes.
With our first spring here, we were witnessing nature awaken at its own pace, each tree, bush and flower unfolding in its own time. Finally getting a much-needed break from the rain, we were eager to make the most of it by tackling more outdoor projects. Over the past few months, clearing out the buildings wasn't too difficult since there wasn't much to remove. But tackling some parts of the garden was a completely different story. We focused on an area near these trees where brambles had completely overtaken the elderberry bushes, growing almost 2 meters high. As Philippe worked his way toward the tree covered in mistletoe, he kept uncovering piece after piece of junk.
Someone wants a beer? Or maybe you want to put your foot on some open glass. Plastic knife? So I can have a beer and I can make my sandwich here. It's all coming out of nature. It's amazing. It's just glass, all sorts of things, metal, plastics.
The higher he went, the worse it got. So we knew it was time to bring out the big guns, or in our case, the little digger. Philippe later explained why we were so determined to take on this project, saying,
And I am sorry you guys have to witness me cleaning it, but once I have seen something like this, I can't unsee it or delete it from my brain. I need to take care of it.
Philippe began by scooping away the contaminated soil, which was filled with metal, glass, and both burnt and unburned plastics. He piled it up in heaps and carefully raked through it, removing all the debris he found.
I'm finding loads of these glass lids as well. Pikachu! Anybody wants some pants? I have a Pokemon t-shirt and some sweatpants for sale.
Next, he dug a deeper hole, so he would later be able to sift through the affected soil layer by layer, continuing to extract the garbage as he went. Unfortunately, our streak of good weather ended and the rain returned, saturating the soil again and filling up the hole he had just dug. On the bright side, it showed us that the soil was excellent at retaining water, a promising sign for the future pond we planned to build further down the land. With the rain back, we had to pause and wait it out. However, all the clearing along this path led to an unexpected discovery. Between the brambles, we spotted a taillight on a red fender. It turned out to be from the original tractor of the farm. We immediately went to take a closer look.
Alright, This is our find.
The tractor is a McCormick F240, a diesel-powered model made by International Harvester in the 60s. A bit of research revealed that these tractors played a significant role in post-war European recovery by modernizing agriculture and industry. While we had known about the tractor for some time, we had no idea where it was until now, so we were really happy to find it. We would need to find a way to get the tractor out though, because despite its general good condition, the front wheels were missing. By the end of April, with the ground still too saturated to finish clearing the junk pit, we shifted our focus on other tasks. Family was coming over for Easter and they were more than happy to help with the long overdue project, cleaning out our attic. Here's a quick overview of where we were as May approached. The attic was clean, the junk site was ready to be finished, and the spot for the vegetable garden was planned out. Further down, the tractor was still surrounded by a sea of brambles, making it quite inaccessible, an issue we would address later. With the weather improving, we were eager to finish clearing the junk site. We pumped out the water, started filling it back with soil, raking it out to get the garbage out.
What I'm finding now is not plastic. Well, it is plastic, but it is clumps that are burned together.
Since the soil was still clumped together, Philippe decided to build a rock sieve. This would help in multiple ways: removing the big rocks, breaking up the soil for easier raking, and filtering out bits and pieces of junk.
You will get hit. Thank you.
Oh, that.
After countless hours of raking and scooping, the large piles began to shrink, allowing us to start grading the area with the excavator. With the grading almost done, we separated the metal from the plastics for recycling. We then prepared the soil to be sown with a mixture of grass and flower seeds to cover it. In the coming season, we plan to clean the soil using a technique called phytoremediation, where specific trees and plants are used to remove pollutants like heavy metals and oils. For now though, with each passing week, new flowers began to bloom, transforming a place that was once filled with garbage into a beautiful, vibrant area. Another thing we wanted to tackle this month was try to start a small vegetable garden. After some consideration, we decided to use the spot between the big lime tree and the farmhouse. While we knew it wasn't the ideal location, other areas were still too overgrown to be suitable. We originally planned to use raised beds, but with the time running short and the frequent rain preventing much prep work, we decided to keep it simple and till the ground this time, even though we believe in a no-till approach. The first thing we planted was potatoes. Interestingly, the same evening Philippe planted the potatoes, I was walking around the garden and heard some snorting and squealing coming from the brambles. I ran inside and called Philippe, and we realized it was a family of wild boar rummaging around. As we watched, a small one suddenly emerged from the bushes, making it clear that the wild boar weren't shy about coming this close to the house. We quickly realized we'd need to fence off the veggie patch, not just to protect it from the boar, but from deer as well.
The fence around the veg garden is finished.
Although we had been preoccupied with other tasks, the image of the old red tractor, stuck with only its back wheels on, still lingered in our minds, and we kept thinking of ways to get it out. But before we could even attempt that, there was still a sea of brambles that needed to be tackled first. With a clear goal in mind, Philippe set to work, clearing a pathway through the brambles to easily access the tractor.
There's a walnut tree. You can see a little bit of its branches. That's where the tractor is. So it might not be a bad idea to try to clear these brambles. If I want to pull it up, then I can pull it through here and then it's just straight up to the barn.
Going into June, it was time to give you an update on the trees we replanted behind the barn. Out of 26 of them, at least half survived, definitely the smaller ones. The bigger ones either hadn't sprouted leaves or had started to but then stopped. Still, it wasn't all for nothing. When we bought the property, one of the things we didn't particularly like was the facade of the old farmhouse, which was covered in a cement-like render with fake cornerstones. It was also clear that some modifications had been made to the area beneath the window, so we were curious to see what lay beneath that cement covering. The other 3 walls of the house hadn't been rendered, giving us a pretty good idea of how the house would look with the original stone exposed. As the render started to come off, Philippe noticed some spots behind it that were really damp. The cement didn't allow the walls to breathe. On one hand, it kept moisture from getting in, which was probably why it was applied in the first place. But on the other hand, it also trapped moisture inside, preventing it from escaping. So it was definitely good to get it off.
These yellow sandstones went up to here, and that is the floor height that's in the living room. So this used to be maybe a door, because I know in France they made the doors a lot lower, or in the old days, let's put it that way, or it was a window.
In front of the house, someone had built a stone terrace against the wall. As the render extended down behind the stone of the terrace, it became difficult to remove, so the terrace had to go. It wasn't something we wanted to keep anyway, and with it gone, it would be easier to work on the house once we decided to fully renovate it. As Philippe worked on the left side of the house, a small disaster struck. Just behind the cement render was the main water pipe. Not knowing this, of course, he hit it, and water came shooting out. Fortunately, he's a skilled plumber, and although the fix he made wasn't something he was particularly proud of, it would have to do for now until we start the big renovations. This job wasn't just about removing the render. It also involved chipping away the cement that had been pushed between the stones. Philippe then treated the stones with muriatic acid to remove the cement residue.
Let op, hè. We were approaching our first year here, and while summer had officially started a month ago, it wasn't until now that the rain finally stopped and we began to enjoy truly beautiful warm weather. With that, we decided to expand our vegetable garden. The potato plants were looking promising, and I added tomatoes to the veggie patch, followed by a melon and some courgettes. The whole yard had truly transformed from the moment we arrived until now. One of the machines that helped us get there was our mower. Those of you who've been following us from the start know that Philippe pushed the mower to its limits, mowing and mulching through brambles and occasionally hitting a bump. The yard was full of hidden metal surprises, half buried by previous residents. Despite working it to the max, Philippe took good care of the mower, replacing the belt, cleaning and sharpening blades regularly, and even adding a tow ball so it could pull the wood chipper. Odin loved, and still does, sitting on it and pretending it's a car. As the seasons changed and the weather warmed up, yard maintenance became increasingly necessary. We found ourselves mowing almost every week, sometimes even in the rain because there was no other choice. Then, about a month ago, we were contacted to review a robotic mower, and honestly, the timing couldn't have been better. It was a blessing because the Luba mower from Mammotion freed up time we could use for other projects. Although we still need to handle certain areas, like the borders around trees and buildings, it takes care of the general grass maintenance. And it does a great job. So now our big mower has a little helper. With the dry weather, the soil was firming up, which meant a few things. First, the possibility of pulling the tractor up towards the barn was looking more realistic. And another thing, it meant the excavation work could continue. But more on that later. For now, let's focus on this red beauty. Getting her out was a real joint effort, involving help from many people and resources.
We enlisted the aid of neighbors, family, a jack, an excavator, a World War II artillery trailer to serve as the missing front wheels, and a lot of patience and courage.
Yeah, okay.
You got it.
Almost, yeah.
I see you there.
Drop
bro.
it.
I see you are there. Down.
No, we need to do it again.
We managed to pull her up all the way to the barn and later down to Claude's workshop at the bottom of the hill. Claude is a very skilled mechanic who helped us out when our van broke down. He's also giving us advice on how to restore and fix the tractor. Many of you were really excited about our find, and thanks to your support we reached our goal on our GoFundMe page. Now we'll be able to get the right parts to get this vintage beauty running again.
We took the injectors off and I'm filling them up with oil very slowly. It goes down and I refill it until it stops. And we took the starter off, which is hanging down here, to try and see if we could budge it. So it is stuck and we're hoping to get it loose like we're doing now. There was someone here and he thinks this engine hasn't been running for 40 years, so it's quite a long time. Alright, next day, let's see if we can turn the engine over. Oh yes, it is turning. Oh yes, this is very, very, very good news.
As I mentioned before, with the sun shining more than ever now, the soil had really dried up. So our attention shifted back to getting the job done behind the barn. One thing was missing though, a way to transport the soil from here down to the fields where we wanted to build a pond. Given all the rain we had over the past year and our understanding of how the land behaved under that amount of water, we were confident a pond would retain water, especially with the type of soil we have here, a mixture of lime and clay. So to move all that soil, we looked into getting a second-hand dumper and found one about a 2-hour drive from us. With the dumper now on site, things are looking up and we'll finally be able to continue.
You made it through our time lapse, and now we'll disclose some plans we have for the future.
These past few months we've been getting ready to make a camping site, to be able to have people come over and stay in our fields and enjoy nature where we are living. That is why we are building the parking lot, is because we need to be able to put our cars away.
And what else can you expect is we need to build an outhouse so people can wash themselves, go to the toilet. We need a little kitchen there so they can do all their stuff. And what you can expect as well is all the soil that I've been moving. We want to build a pond, so that's another big project that's coming up. And in the meanwhile, it's gonna be the renovations. It all depends a little bit on the weather. You saw last year was didn't help us.
year.
Yes, it didn't help us that much because actually we wanted to open up the camping this summer, but with all the rain, we just had to give up the plans. But we started cleaning up the yard and stuff like that, and did some other stuff. So it doesn't matter. We'll see how it goes this year, but we would like to open up the camping site next year in the summertime. Then we have loads more plans, but those are still
Very much in the future.
very much in the future. So we're not gonna disclose them yet. Tag along on this journey where we do a lot of big stuff, and then we still need to renovate the farmhouse. The old barn, the roof needs to be redone. So
The new barn.
yeah, we have lots and lots to show in our weekly videos. So thanks for watching and sticking with us.
See you. Bye.